My name is Will, actually, and yeah, of course I have a podcast. I'm coming to you all the way from my mother's basement to bring you All the King's Voices, a podcast about gender, performance, and everything in between. Henlo Bullfrog is Joy Taney's changeling twin brother, who was stolen by the fairies at birth and dropped into a frog pond, and who has since returned to the human world by crawling out of the Woodland Cemetery in West Philadelphia. They've been a drag king for a little over a year, but they've been a body painter and an airbrush artist working with clients for burlesque, cabaret, and drag for about 5 years, and got into body painting through their experience on and winning Skin Wars Fresh Paint, which can be seen on Netflix. You can check it out, Season 1, Episode 4. There are a lot of kings who move between king and thing, which, in their art, oscillates on the spectrum between man and monster. In February of 2019, Henlo did his first show as a solo artist, which he debuted two of his signature stunts, an on-stage makeup transformation in seconds and bloodily tearing his own face off. He's been disgusting and delighting audiences ever since. Now, just a quick note, we did this interview back in late April, early May, so if it doesn't seem like it's particularly current, that's because it's not. Time has gotten away from me as a podcast editor, so I apologize for that, but I really hope that you enjoyed this interview with Henlo.
Hey, I'm Henlo Bullfrog. I'm from Philadelphia. I've been a drag king for almost 2 years now and a body artist working with the Philadelphia cabaret, burlesque, and drag communities for about 5 years. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So you are newer to actually doing the art of kinging. However, you have been like doing the art of kinging for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can you talk a little bit about how you got into the like body art and like all of these different like effects looks? I guess.
Yeah, well, I started with body art when I was brought on to a show, Skin Wars Fresh Paint, which is a spin-off of the show Skin Wars. They're both available to watch on Netflix. I was on season 1, episode 4, and I fell in love with body painting, and I decided I was going to turn it into a career. And I was also kind of looking towards the main show, which unfortunately ended after season 3. But I was trying to familiarize myself as a professional body painter with all the kinds of challenges that are seen on the main season and things that generally are commonly asked of body painters. One of which being to work with drag performers. So I started seeking out drag performers as clients and collaborators, and in particular, I started with John Jarboe of the Bearded Ladies, and through that, I became more aware and interested in the other non-body paint related FX and makeup arts with creams and powders and prosthetics. I've worked 3 years at Terror Behind the Walls, which is the biggest haunted attraction in Philadelphia and usually one of the top rated haunted attractions in the country.
Oh wow.
Making monsters every night. And on the other end of that, with the glamour and stage makeup, I sought out drag classes in Philadelphia that introduced me to a number of people who wanted to become kings. And it was through them and seeing the king art form at the Philadelphia Mr. PDK 2018 that I was like, something turned a light bulb on. And I've been a professional musician, so as like part of a group of performers where the dynamic is different than being a soloist.
Yeah.
And especially, I was usually playing an instrument that bridged the percussion and like rhythm melody section, bass guitar, trombone, bass clef instruments. So, yeah, being a soloist is like an entirely new experience. I'm honestly much more comfortable singing in front of a band than I am as a soloist drag king, but it's because it's scary also that really attracts me, and like because the illusion is hard, and in my everyday life, I have a pretty feminine shape and kind of like a hard femme style. So to bring the total illusion and go all the way in the other direction is really exciting to me and has become something I'm really passionate about as a way to show off my skills. I'm wearing one of my painted shirts today. I thought you'd
Oh,
like it.
nice. Yeah. That's
Makes
awesome.
And I got this like industrial white chain and sprayed primer on it and then airbrushed it to be fluorescent orange and like so it's all the skills that I've been using as a visual artist in larger productions now blending with the skills that I've used as a musician also in larger productions kind of distilled into being a one man band kind of production like as you well know, I'm sure that you probably have some fantastic advice for me as well, considering that I'm a baby. I'm a little tadpole of a bullfrog.
I mean, technically, I am still on my like the very beginning of my drag journey as well. you know. So I'm super interested. So how did you get pulled into the Netflix show that all of a sudden you're like I'm I'm painting. Let's do the thing.
um, I was contacted by a casting assistant after posting a really beautiful watercolor portrait of a friend that then went on to win first prize in one of these local art gallery shows that was portrait themed. And they were like, "Hey, like, you want to do a show? And you don't have to know anything about this, but it's like for body painting and hosted by RuPaul, and like, um, you could win $10,000 and be on TV." And I was like, at the time, the phrase YOLO was very popular. And I was like, yeah, YOLO. Like, might as well. But
Right.
also because it is an experience that seems like challenging and scary. And um, in the last several years of my life, I also have an invisible disability where I have to manage a certain level of physical therapy and caring for like my joints and muscles
Yeah.
throughout my days and weeks. So since that disability has become more well managed in my life, it's opened up a lot of doors for me. And so now I'm just like, I spent 12 years with limited mobility and homebound. I missed a lot of high school. And so now like that my life has opened back up, I'm just like, gimme, I will devour everything. Like
Yeah.
I want to like make up for that lost time. And so going for this show was definitely part of that. And
Yeah.
it was just a wonderful whirlwind experience. It was like summer camp, where I feel like the only people who really understand what happened there were like my other buddies on the show, and like we got along really well, and I'm still in touch with them. And like especially now with all of us already being professional artists, and then the pandemic changing everything, it's like checking up on each other and being like, hey, like, how you doing for like life and financial stability, like
Yeah.
making sure that these people that I had the fantastic experience with are okay, and that if I feel like I have my oxygen mask on, I can like turn to the other people on the plane and be like, how you doing, buddy? Like
Yeah.
um,
That's super important too.
it is, yeah. But like how I got into it was just out of the blue, I guess, to answer your question. It was an opportunity presented to me that I felt ready for. And I felt like I did win.
Mhm.
Spoilers. I win the episode, but
It's awesome.
thank you. Uh, I feel like winning actually, I mean, it's in art sports where like the outcome is sort of subjective, like Project Runway or Drag Race or whatever, like everybody has the team they're rooting for. They have their favorites. And if they don't win, because it's still kind of subjective, they can be like, oh, but they deserved it. And like often make the people who didn't win the ones more successful in that field because they've got something to prove now.
Mhm.
But in that same way, like I felt like I had a monkey on my back being like, well, like it's time to show everyone that I deserved to win by doing everything I can to involve myself in it and find a way to fall in love with the art form.
Yeah.
And then, to especially now, like with all of these makeup artists who don't have their subjects to practice on and to show
Mm.
their work on, like Euphoria's makeup artist putting out makeup looks on herself because she doesn't have her normal clients. And like those of us that already started drag, which does demand mastery of like so many different aspects of the art and the business and all that, and the social media and the, creating a, one person show, even if it's for a minute and a half.
Yep.
And now learning to do all this video stuff. It just feels like almost,
Yeah. It's a lot.
it's just so.
Yeah, I feel you. Like it's especially having to, like, you're sitting and you're staring at a screen and you're not around other people and you're not getting feedback and you're not practicing with other faces. It's just you. Like, there's a lot of pressure there.
Absolutely. The 10 minutes before I go on one of my live streams is usually the worst part of my day. Like, I'm just like, ugh.
That's so funny. So do you paint on live stream, or are you just mainly doing live stream performances right now?
Um, so I do 2 weekly live streams, one on Saturdays at 1 p.m., which is the Joy of Body Painting, where as my alter ego body paint artist, Joy Taney, I will paint myself, or I'm sheltering with 2 people. So, and both of them at various times have allowed themselves to like be my subject. And so
That's
I'll
awesome.
paint on myself or one of the people that I'm like living with. And then on Tuesdays at 6 p.m., and it's Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because now we just have like such a wider world of viewers, is Tall Tale Tuesdays with Henlo Bullfrog. And so every week I paint myself up. I usually read 3 selections from different books that interest me. Lately, it's been a lot from When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, which is a book that's really helped me live through some crises. And then I got permission from Penguin Random House and Donna Jo Napoli to read some of her books. And this is something I've been pursuing for about 6 weeks, and I finally, the official word finally came in. So I'm starting with Prince of the Pond, which is Donna Jo Napoli's been writing like fairy tales from different perspectives, like since before Wicked.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. She was like my favorite childhood author, and it's been like really amazing to email with her about this project and like have her kind of cheering it on and being like, okay, well, you gotta like go through the right, do this right so that like we
Yeah.
can really do this. And so Prince of the Pond is the story of the frog prince told by a female frog living in the pond that he is dropped into. And so like as Henlo Bullfrog and doing so many kind of, making my little amphibious puns and makeup looks, there's a lot of similarities. And I feel like in retrospect, my character's probably influenced by that book. So
That's super
that's
cool.
really, yeah.
That's awesome. So that's neat. So you're still finding ways to like innovate and do something during the pandemic that isn't even just like, I'll make a 2-minute act and do the thing, but like you're actually out there. Or do you interact with people too, or is it more just like you show up and do the show and then you're off for the day?
I definitely, I mean, I guess it depends on how you would define interact with people. I just put out a call for people who watch my live streams to suggest a few body painting themes.
Oh, cool.
And so, I'm thinking about maybe someone said camouflage painting. It's like, you know what? I have the camera set up now that I can basically, just like what you need with a camouflage painting on a live stream, you can just check the frame the same way I'd be looking at a monitor connected to the tripod. It's been a while since I did a camouflage painting.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'll be
yeah.
cool.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So there is a level of audience interaction. Uh, and I mean, there's also a level of interaction I find very interesting where like figuring out how to do duets with people you can't be in the same room with. So that's like a form of interaction that I'm very excited and intrigued by. I did a video recently that was a duet with one of my shelter mates, who's Can You Not,
Okay.
fellow drag king. Um, but then the duet after that, the video that I did was with a burlesque performer named Renaissance Noir, who, yeah, we're sheltering in different homes. It wasn't safe, but I had a GoPro because with my disability, sometimes I get like clumsy when I'm having a flare up. So I needed like a camera I could drop
Mm.
pretty regularly, and also something that was going to be secure enough that I could sterilize it and um, be working with it during a time when you gotta. So with it being able to go underwater, it's like spritzing it with a cleaner is like no problem. And so in that same way, because we could spritz it with a cleaner, I was able to, because Renaissance is also like a good friend of mine. I trusted her with the camera and could drop it off at her doorstep to then take into her home and sterilize and shoot, so that we had the same kind of footage, and then I could take it home a few days later and edit it together. And so now I'm talking to, a few other artists about future duets. And I was just the other day, a few weeks ago, I was like, I don't even have a solo video. So that'll be coming out for Dragged Into a Computer Volume 5. And so in terms of interaction, there's like, I'm really trying to find a way to make that happen on several levels with both my audience and fellow artists, especially now because like I'm a pretty extroverted person and
Oh
like
no.
for it.
Oh my god, I feel so badly for all you extroverts. Like, I'm, I can, although I will say this has been the most taxing time to be an introvert as well, because everybody is like, well, you're home, so I can call you, right? And it's like, I don't have an excuse. No, what do I do?
I
Like I
know.
literally I love people. I'm kind of like an ambivert in that way. Like I can go out, I do shows, I love being around people, but I have to have time to like recharge. And like there's some days like actually like today where it's like I have 4 hours straight booked of calls and I'm just like okay, you know. But it's
that
good.
that would drain anyone. Like even the really good calls that I've been having, I'm also kind of tired afterwards.
Yeah, it's different too. Like even being like I don't know, there's something about being with a person like sitting across the table from them that is just not
Yeah.
the same, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say I am very grateful that I can connect with people like yourself all the way across different states through this media. So I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
when we figure out how to do tours again, this is, I feel like, the shows and artists I've been able to connect with, it's that first step towards making a future tour happen.
Oh, for
And
sure.
is now we've worked together, so we know that the other will do what they say they're going to do, at least to the extent that we can have this conversation and like,
Exactly. We both showed up on time, you know.
yes. I mean, from what I understand, showing up on time is a king stereotype, though. Like,
Yeah. So I have so many questions for you. I want to go in like a couple different directions, but um, so you mentioned earlier like that you a couple times actually like that you were like, oh well, this thing scared me, so I wanted to do it, and so that seems like that's kind of like a guiding ethos for you. So when you're
mhm.
looking at kinging, like what is it about it that necessarily scared you, and also what is that thing that made you say, all right, this is the thing I have to try?
um, well, I am a bit prideful in my being an artist and being a skillful artist, and so I've always known that I am one of those people that you can count on. But to have the entire project be on your shoulders and be the auteur from start to finish. I mean, I love it, and I also it's terrifying because I mean, you see the million possibilities that that you could have taken a different path or made a different decision, and it would have come out, this thing you're creating would have come out differently and maybe better. And there's no one to turn to if it's weak. If it's weak, it's on you. And that's part of the learning process too.
Yeah.
And I really value my collaborators who are able to like articulate when I'm not getting an idea across clearly. But yeah, I love being in a band setting. The glue that's holding everyone together, where you have to be able to listen from about 3 different directions, where you're listening to the rhythm section, you're listening to the melody section, you're listening to yourself, and you're the bridge that's spanning everything, because you have to make sure that they're gelling. And that's usually the role that I find myself in as a musician. So then to now not be the one who's like, guys, pull it together, but like I'm the one who is solely reliant on my own competence, and there's no one to turn to, but there's also no one to take care of. And that's one of the things that gives me confidence on stage, is like, if there is someone that I'm sharing the stage with who I care about, I feel like I'm going to do a better job, because I want to instill confidence in them looking at me too. Mm-hmm. And so that's because I am a harsher person towards myself than towards the people I love. I do not have as strong motivation to be there for myself, I guess. I'm like, no, work harder.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Well, so then what makes you show up for yourself, especially when you're doing solo work?
It's so rewarding, and I've seen my skills advance so fast because I'm using them all together in ways that would not have occurred to me if I wasn't becoming this one-person production. The friends and people that it's brought into my life, not just the creative collaborators, but on a personal level, some of the people who have stuck their necks out for me and been there at the lowest times in my life in the past 3 to 5 years, have all been people that I've met through either this art form or something that led me to this art form. And also, like, one of my past genres as a professional artist was like as an illustrator and comic artist, and I never felt like I got the kind of traction with creating original characters that I've gotten with creating an original character in drag. Where in illustration, there are people who will just illustrate a character going about their day, having their adventures, and it might just be single illustrations or a comic, and people are following it for the love of that character. Mm-hmm. And so the creator is able to kind of stand behind that character and be like, yes, we love them, look what I've created. Where in drag, people are interested in the character of Henlo Bullfrog, and they're like, what's he gonna do next? I'm gonna come see him. And I'm like, whoa, like I tried this with other art forms, but never has the payoff to like amount of work I put into it been this good before. And I don't have to stand behind this character. I get to be them and get all that love. Like,
yeah, for sure. So what is a Henlo Bullfrog performance like?
Unexpected is probably the number one word that I try to invoke. Sometimes gory, heartfelt, usually in a minor key, sometimes folky. I love painting my costumes and doing a lot of work on stuff myself. I love body horror. I love weird, but weird can be beautiful too. Yeah. I love surprising the audience. Let's see. So like, one of my signature pieces is like, I start out playing spoons, and then I'm not satisfied with the audience's reaction. So I take the spoons and I give myself a Glasgow smile, and it's very gory. And then I'm not satisfied with the audience's reaction. So I take the Glasgow smile and I deglove my jaw. And then I start dancing around with like pieces of skin hanging off my jaw. And there's all this like blood and gore here, and doing like this so it jiggles. And then I take out scissors and cut some of it off, and then
Oh my goodness.
like open my collar, and there's a slit throat, and I, for the end of the number, I pull out my own esophagus and dance with it. So
Oh my gosh.
all of this song kind of about trying to seek validation from external sources and being like, everything to everyone by the Bahamas. So like, I can't be everything to everyone. I don't know why I always try to please everyone around me, you know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
My one song in a major key where I'm like doing self-mutilation. So, but it's usually stuff that is intentionally difficult for other artists to recreate because of the specific like blend of skills that I'm using. So like for that, you would need to have several levels of experience in stage makeup, in drag makeup, and then in FX makeup to like get some of what I was doing there. I recently developed a number for live online shows during this time where I built, I took arm socks that I already had that were like white.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to body paint my arms when I wanted my arms to just be plain white. And I repainted them to my skin tone, cut them, stuffed them, and then like attached them with wires to my elbow and hand, and then magnets to my torso so that I had 4 arms.
Wow.
And then it's a whole demon transformation number. And another common thing that shows up in my performances also shows up in that number. I did it for Man Candy's first Mandemic show. They have their second one happening pretty soon now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's also like a moment. I have this. I built this custom like face stamp basically that I can do a makeup transformation in a matter of seconds. And
What?
so like
Cool.
yeah, that's definitely a staple of my performances because it's like any excuse to use that thing, you know.
Oh my gosh, I want one of those.
Yeah, well, when it's safe to work together, that is something that I build custom for other artists. There's a burlesque performer, Jada May, in Philadelphia, who has a face stamp that I built for her. And she uses it for a Melisandre number, where Melisandre removes her clothes during the burlesque number, and then she finally removes her choker, puts her face into a brazier of fire, and when she comes out, she's old.
That's
So
cool.
it's we do the makeup transformation in the brazier.
Yeah. Oh, that's super neat.
So I'd love to build one for you.
All right, somebody tell this virus to like quit it because I gotta travel.
Please, yeah.
Oh man, that's super cool. So it's really interesting to me because as a for my like my background in kinging came from burlesque, came from theater, came from like I'm a performer first and I'll figure out the makeup second, right? Like for other kings, there's so much emphasis on the look, right? Like obviously, like yes, this took me almost an hour, and like you can't tell, right? Like.
No, it's very polished.
Thanks. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but
No, you can tell that you're a king with some miles on you. Like it's not a baby king contour,
for
and
sure.
it doesn't have to be what is it, like non-human looking to be like really skillful and beautiful. And that's certainly where one of my fallacies that I fall into is I'm like, must make it extreme, like.
But it's super cool. Like I love seeing the diversity of styles that make up kinging. You know, like what you are as a king is not what I am as a king, and that is what is so cool about it to me. You know.
Yes.
So when somebody asks you like, what is a drag king, or what is it that you do, like what is the art of kinging? How do you describe it?
um for me, there has to be some aspect of relationship to like masculinity, but I don't even think that's true for every king. But as I mentioned in the email, I feel like I can really only personally define my own approach to it because there are, as we just mentioned, so many different takes on it out there that like absolutely, probably tomorrow, someone will come in and blow my mind with some definition of kinging that I've never even considered before, and I can't wait for that. But for me, definitely, especially knowing that even if and I do feel like I mean, try to bring masculine illusion into my movement and my body, but I don't think that it's necessarily an extreme or parody or anything, but I certainly explore things that in the culture, even if they aren't explicitly masculine, they are implicitly masculine. So some of the monsters that I explore have different relationships to masculinity. Doesn't matter that Godzilla is a dude, no. But we've all assumed, and now it's become canon in ways that, there's the son of Godzilla and all
Right.
these other things. And it doesn't matter, but we do automatically, especially genderless monsters that don't have a relationship to their gender. We're like, if a monster has a relationship to its gender, it's probably female. like,
Yeah.
uh, and that's just our own cultural canon. But certainly, as someone who has always associated monstrousness with my own queerness and gender variance in a positive way. I love being a monster. It's a power fantasy. I am developing a Godzilla number. I want to rhinestone a Godzilla Kigurumi, and and then it's another one of these stagecraft things because I have a lot of thoughts on how to build breakaway buildings that you can just put them back together at the end of the night and travel with them.
Oh
Um,
my God, yes.
which is also something I could totally see bringing to burlesque clients. Like everything I do is advertisement for something I can do for someone else. Like, but
That's
yeah.
great.
So for me, like even if the explicit masculinity relationship isn't there, there is within our culture, whatever I'm exploring does have an implicit relationship to masculinity. Another monster that I'm excited about exploring, whose relationship to masculinity is very different from Godzilla, is the Phantom of the Opera. So
Oh
I
yeah.
had I right
Yeah.
because like the Phantom is both the nice guy, the one who expects to be repaid for his kindness, but he's also the Me Too perpetrator because he is both a man in power and a man who believes himself to be powerless.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm really excited about exploring that form of monstrousness. But
Yeah.
that's a very gendered monstrousness that is almost the exception in that it's overtly masculine and has a relationship to its gender as a monster, where the alien is monstrous because it's feminine
Mm.
and sexual. Species is monstrous because it's feminine and sexual. It's Leorna is a grieving mother. There's the siren is a seductress.
Yeah.
It's Medusa is beautiful except for snakes for hair. And isn't that terrible? Because it makes her less beautiful somehow. So, which
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I would love snakes for hair. So,
I grew up with like this awful curly hair that like turns into frizz when, the humidity is
oh,
above like 1. So I'm good with not having snakes for hair. I've already had to like deal with this. So it seems like a lot of work.
oh,
But
I, I love curly hair, and everyone who has it tells me I wouldn't love it if I had it. But I'm
no,
just like, but the curls.
it looks good like 1 day out of 7 every week, so that's why I just
oh,
chopped it off. It's easier. But that's such a really interesting insight about monsters being gendered and like exploring the different ways in which you can use that or not within your performance. Um it's such a like it's almost like the opposite of what a lot of people do, which is using their own gender as like the lens in, whereas like using the monster's gender as a way to like play with, what does masculine even mean, right? Like that's a super cool lens to use.
thank you.
Yeah. So do you do any performances where you do explore your own gender identity, or you mentioned that you tend to present in a more femme way in the real world, whatever that is anymore. Um, you know, like how do you kind of play with those bits of yourself, or do you? I guess is my question.
Um, it's interesting because like on some levels, even Henlo is a mask, and it's only by wearing this face that I feel comfortable discussing some of this stuff. Sometimes I've been trying to vet Taylor Swift's "The Man" lately as a possible duet between Joy and Henlo about the various struggles
Yeah.
of being, a femme-looking visual artist and then an AFAB drag king, and like the various ways you're shut out of some of the highest levels of potential achievement in both of those fields. But I don't know. I'm still figuring out if Taylor Swift is okay to perform and if the man is okay to perform. So like I'm trying to figure this out. It would be maybe the first time I've really expressed some of Joy's gender feelings because I actually started out exploring hyper queen looks, and I look a little bit like today Crystal Caverns, my alter ego, who is or yeah, my millionth alter ego. But So on some level, a lot of it is as the character, especially because I have this whole backstory for him, and he lives in a slightly different world from us, and even if the story isn't directly from his canon or whatever, like it informs how I play him. But
Yeah.
it's opened up a lot of stuff. Like even though I still consider myself hard femme, I feel like I wouldn't be considered hard femme if my body wasn't shaped certain ways. Also, like
Mm.
it would not look so hard femme if I was flatter. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, then people make assumptions based on what they can see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been taking so much pleasure in um, wearing uh, wearing suspenders or a bolo tie or the cowboy boots that I never let myself have, or like finding these things that I've always been fighting to be seen as a person first or an artist first
Mm-hmm.
rather than like a woman first.
Yeah.
Um, and finding that it's also always been hard to place myself in really distinct categories a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to be able to now play in that place that is somewhere between the genders, somewhere between this world and the next world. The even the stage is a liminal space. The performance is liminal, and you don't even if the video is beautiful, you may not get the full experience of being there.
Yeah.
So in those ways, I'm like finding some gender euphoria that I didn't expect, or maybe repressed so hard that like I'm just now waking up to, oh my God, this has been in like the basement of my mind for over a decade.
Yeah, I feel that so hard. Like I didn't know, so I accidentally became a drag king. I was a hyper queen. And I did a one woman show, but I needed, because it was a burlesque show, I needed time to cover the transitions, and because I had to change pasties and wigs and all that. If you want to take clothes off, you have to put clothes on. It's a whole thing. One of my best friends said, "Well, why don't you like dress up as a man and mansplain on video in between the scenes?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a cool idea. I'll try that." And as soon as I put on Will and looked in the mirror, I was like, "The fuck?" Like it was one of those like, "Wait a sec. I this is not a thing I've ever really thought about." I've dealt with like the struggle of like what is being a woman and what is being a female this and what is da 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 da, and I never really stopped to think like, to go down to the basement of my mind, right, and be like, but what if there's some other things out there? Like there's other shapes to be, if that makes any sense, right? If there's other ways to express yourself or to feel, safe or whole or different or
real or whatever. So I don't know. So I started doing Will more after that, and it just kind of was one of those like I let Dee Dee, my alter ego, go. She's in a better place now. And I'm slowly building back towards a new Hyper Queen persona just because I feel like at this point, now knowing what I know about like my own gender identity and whatever, it's easier to build something new than to go back to something that already was, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I know as we're coming up on time a little bit, but I wanted to ask you if you feel comfortable talking a little bit about performing with an invisible disability. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about it because there's um, not, some of us don't have the spoons. So,
yeah.
yeah, I feel very fortunate to generally, I already have the tools to gauge my general energy levels and ability. When I come to a show, I know that I can only carry so much in terms, I've tried to overdo it, but,
But then you pay
you
for
know,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. So in a lot of ways, I mean, and coming from, I was born into a folk music band before my disability developed. So even there's like a level of like preparation for knowing how to get the job done and conserve your energy and not trash yourself every night, especially if you're doing, so many shows a week or whatever. Um, but I mean, my disability put a hold on, I mean, my not just my creative career, but my life for a long time. I'm 33 now. My professional art career really got started when I was around 26, which is from 14 to 26 was the worst of it.
Yeah.
And that's 26 was around when I really started my life. And um, it's still, there's a lot of toxic mythology in our culture about what it is to be an artist, and even more about what it is to be a drag artist or a queer person. Um, so there's a lot of potential to push yourself over the edge and, not manage it so well. Um,
Yeah.
because this is, for the most part, if we don't treat our art like a marathon rather than a sprint, then we're gonna like burn ourselves out. And but there's a lot of encouragement to overdo it and be unkind to your artist who's creating all of this
Yeah.
and be like, no more, no, like, because like for instance, the idea of having to have a new outfit or routine every time you take the stage. um I would much rather, and this also comes from a place where it's like, for the sake of my disability, I cannot do this. Like I can't. Um, I There's a certain like beats per minute of song that I generally, if it's above a certain level, I can't do it because I know I'm gonna like wreck myself.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so like a lot of care with like conserving your energy and I usually have to take at least half a day off the following day to recover and do, all my physical therapy and all that. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of like extra. I don't know if you're familiar with spoon theory.
Oh yeah. I have Ehlers-Danlos and Potts, so I am
Oh, okay.
right
Hey,
there.
what's up, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you're saving a certain number of spoons, not just show day, but the day after,
Mm-hmm.
just knowing that it's gonna like drain you of so much, and then you need extra energy to just get yourself back from the negative to zero, like before you like actually build the energy again. um
Yeah. It's
on
so hard.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not something that people can appreciate because you're not I mean, some people, myself included, use mobility aids when they need them.
Mm-hmm.
But like for the most part, you're not bleeding out in front of them, and
Right.
people are going to be much more empathetic towards someone who is has some sort of visual cue to remind them. And I don't think that's necessarily out of poor intentions, just humanness and this culture. And
Yeah.
but definitely learn knowing how to say no is really important, not just working like in the bar arts, but with a disability
Yeah, that
and being,
one's
I've had enough. Good
yeah,
night.
that's the one that I'm still learning. Not very well, but I mean, also living testament. I almost destroyed both of my wrists and hands because I was a pole dancer and like I do a lot of chair tricks as well. And then, I kept going even after the pain started because, I was booked. What am I going to do? And instead of saying, no, I can't do that, I went and did the performance and then had to take 2 years off. So, you know.
And that's one of the like toxic mythology in art is like that the opportunity is only going to come by once. So even if your body is warning you that it's gonna stop you majorly if you don't stop now, like
Mm-hmm.
that you have this myth in your head that we've all been taught, which is that this is when the lightning strikes, and if you don't take advantage of this right now, opportunity comes by all the time. You just have to learn how to recognize it and be prepared. Like,
Yeah. That's such a good lesson to learn.
yeah.
It's a hard one though.
Yeah, like we've all lost so much with the pandemic, and like I was set to have one of the best months of my drag career when all this fell through, and but also knowing that this is not the end of the world. Opportunity is going to come again. Just keep making art, like mourn it, but move on.
Yeah, and just keep making art. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, as we're coming up on the end of our time, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to share with the other kings out there? Things that you think are important to know about Henlo or your experience, identity, gender, performance, anything?
I would say please use things on your face and body that have been approved to use on your face and body. I made the mistake too before I was a professional body artist and painted myself with acrylic, but it's a terrible idea. Acrylic paint is not formulated for your skin health or safety. Um, there's a good chance that you could get like a rash or a skin reaction. It's not designed to be easy to remove from your skin. And speaking from experience, I had to pick it out of my pores. And I know that there's a temptation with all of us with limited supplies right now, with all the specialty stores being closed, that there's the temptation to, try whatever it is, the coffee grounds as contour, or, using some kind of certain markers on your face, but just use, please, skin safe. You can, it's, go to the grocery store and get makeup there, or get something that is safe to glue to your face. Don't put a tin can on, don't cut up, what is it, the Halloween like things with the tin can, and they'll like just put, and it's like, that's so sharp, you're gonna like literally poke your eye out, and it's terrifying.
No, no, thank you. Yeah, I think that's very good advice. So yeah, keep making art, but within reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we want our artists to be here for a long time, and yeah, just don't fuck with that. Like, just
I love it. Well, Henlo Bullfrog, thank you so much for coming on All the King's Voices.
thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you liked it, why not rate, review, and subscribe wherever you feel like rating, reviewing, and subscribing. If you want to learn more about today's guests, head over to facebook.com/kingsvoicespod, or check out the comments or the description in the YouTube channel, King's Voices Pod. There I'll post all the links to everything you want to know about today's guest, and you can find them from there. If you are interested in becoming a guest yourself, then why not shoot me an email at willxullydrag@gmail.com, or shoot me a message on Facebook at facebook.com/kingsvoicespod. All right, so that's it for today. And remember, keep your toxic masculinity to yourself, but share your drag with the world.